Hey, Pete, the discount plumber here to tell you exactly what you don't need to do with plumbing. That's me, the guy who flooded his basement last night. How you doing? I'm exactly how I look. Normally, this is just an aesthetic crazed guy look. Today, I'm honestly this guy's. I'm broken both physically, mentally, and emotionally, and it's not from fantasy football for a change. So that's nice. That's a nice change. Yeah, welcome to the Dynasty Grind. That's my story. I have somehow pumped out Week 12 projections and an update since Monday, and that's all I have done. I am unaware of what's going on Twitter. If we burn the place down, I have news to me, so please let me know in the chat what is going on, what questions you have. I'm aware of start-sit questions and basic Dynasty knowledge. That's all I've got running today. We're really going to rely heavily on Dynasty Outhouse, who is back, finally, for this week's episode. And yeah, let's get to it. Questions in the chat, trade questions, value questions, what happened to this player questions, why you should sell Michael Pittman just as hard and quick as he can for as much as he possibly can, that kind of thing, you know, that kind of general Dynasty advice everyone's giving. I'm done, Russ. Your turn. Go.
Well, you attack me twice in that opening. First, it's like finally back. I'm like, I missed 1 week, Peter.
Come on, it's not good enough, man. It's not good enough.
And then you start attacking Michael Pittman, saying to sell him as far fast and high as possible. And it's just like, ow, my heart.
No, I have had several thoughts this week. Just several, actually. That's all I've had room for. And one was quite clearly how I am lower on Michael Pittman. But in this culture, in our new culture, this is what's wrong with you all. This is what's wrong with our culture, right? Of buy high, sell low, buy this guy, trade all this hot Dynasty takes. I don't think reasonable advice hits quite the same anymore. And look, here's the truth. I've been wrong on Michael Pittman since the day he was born. I've known of him since then. Obviously, I've been very wrong. And it's very clear he's not only an NFL caliber talent, he's an amazing NFL caliber talent. And he's had a great season. He's definitely proved his haters wrong, of which I consider myself one. I deserve to be owned for it. So that's all said. It's not like he's going to fail. This is bad. There's some mystery number that proves he's going to drop off or not be a top 12 wide receiver. I honestly I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is when I look at the value market, the player whose profile I don't think matches up to where he's producing is Michael Pittman. It doesn't mean he's not worth nothing. It doesn't mean you should definitely sell him, but that's where I am at on him. Just because over the long view, nothing to do with how good he's obviously proven to be, but just the type that have multiple years of consistent and high volume play. Michael Pittman isn't it for me. Partly it's just because of his, it wasn't a bad, but it was a slightly underwhelming college profile. Partly it's how long it's taken him to work into a decent target share and role this year on a much improved team, which I really think is the trick here. It's partly that his volume numbers look like good volume numbers for the wide receiver twos in other good situations. But all of that sounds like I'm panning him. But the truth is he has proved himself to be far more than I thought he would end up being. It's not like he's not going to be a good player in the NFL. But if I'm betting on where there is weakness in the value, because I think he's accurately valued high. Like he's been good, but there's a reason I was low on him. And that's because his overall profile, and even this year, doesn't fit the type that I think his value should rightly be in holistically. But hey, I'm essentially betting on what happens most commonly, and Michael Pittman clearly isn't the common thing. But that's just sticking to process, not noticing something bad about the player. So that puts you in this really potentially awesome situation. Sell Michael Pittman, and then when he's not a top 12 wide receiver next year, do victory laps, or honestly admit he should rightly be valued higher. I'm just slightly lower. And so I think I would trade out if I could get that value right now.
Well, in November, DLF ADP, he's wide receiver 20. I mean,
I think it's actually still pretty low. That's why I haven't been pushing it everywhere. But I saw a few things when I signed on today, like literally an hour ago, and it was about like Higgins versus Pittman. I was like, well, I clearly want Higgins. Like that's not a question to me. And where his value is, he always seems to be the ultimate question. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
No. By the way, wide receiver 15 for T. Higgins. But I mean, let's look at the people in a couple of spaces. Let's start at 15, I guess. T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, please come back. DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy. Here we got Pittman, Chase Claypool, Cortland Sutton, Devonta Smith, Mike Evans, and Keenan Allen, just to round it out from 15 to 25. Who would you take in that list above Michael Pittman right now for dynasty value? I mean, you still got to take Hopkins. I mean, the people above him, I think, are still above him. Higgins, I mean, Ridley's a little up or down right now.
I think that's an interesting conversation. I actually managed to fit in listening to our mothership, I guess, the DLF podcast. And I felt they were nowhere near. And I love Calvin Ridley as a fantasy asset. Like, I don't know him personally. But I don't think they were nearly pessimistic enough. This is basically a retirement to me. Could he come back? And will I be higher than everyone else? Probably within a range. If he did to say that he feels comfortable to come back, yeah, definitely. But for now, like, there's no way of expecting it. Like, I based on what he said, I think it's fair to say this is a retirement for now, at least.
And that means like sitting out the season. That's at least what it felt like to me.
It's definitely the season, and he has no idea of how long it will take. That's me.
And I mean, it's it's thoughts and prayers right now. Sending him my positive thoughts for him. Well, him to get well. That's really the most important thing, obviously. But me as a Calvin Ridley fan, who, if I weren't lazy, would have a signed jersey framed behind me. I'm just super lazy and haven't gone to getting it done yet. Hey, maybe I'll get a good Black Friday sale. That's a good idea. I purposely waited. But all of those guys I just listed that are above Michael Pittman, to me, are still above Michael Pittman. And then when you get below him, I'd rather have Pittman over Claypool, Pittman over Sutton. I mean, Devonta Smith is a conversation, but right now I think it's still Pittman, with Philly's offense being a little up and down.
See, you lose me with those kind of. I will take the upside of a Smith.
I know Smith to me is a very good conversation, especially with the way with their new offense, so the Philadelphia doing their run first thing.
I hate the team, to be clear. I'm still perplexed by the team, but
Devonta Smith, the player, man, I don't know. That's close. I think I still just take Pittman because he's more of that body type that I fall for, like Mike Evans, who's the next guy. Evans and Keenan Allen are the next two guys. Evans, yes. Keenan, I love Keenan, but value-wise, I think the answer is Pittman. But I'll take Keenan because I think he'll still produce more this year and probably maybe next. Like, here's the thing. Like, if you think more like I do, then you're happy to buy Pittman at his value right now.
I think that's fair. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think you're right to like him.
If you don't obviously, because his value is most likely going up. Let's just put it that way. Right now, guys are going to, Hopkins is going to fall below by default. I mean, there's just going to be a bunch of guys that fall, and Pittman is doing well enough, is the wide receiver one on his team, and that team is only getting better with Jonathan Taylor finally being the workhorse there. So I really just think by default he's going to go up to like maybe 17ish, and at that point, man, I might be with you. I love Pittman, but I'm not ready to say he's top 12. There's far too many good wide receivers and teams that will pass more. Right. And I do also firmly believe.
I do like the team he's on. I think it's a smart team. Well,
but they're also going to draft another wide receiver. They have to. Hilton's gone. Paris Campbell's never going to be a thing. And I know you love Zach Pascal, but he's never going to be a solid 2 on the team. Like, he'll be the slot guy. He'll be the 3, but they need someone else.
Hey,
and
man,
they
Zach
will
Pascal's
draft. And they still don't have a tight end.
You shut your mouth. Zach Pascal's the truth. But no, I get what you mean. It's also, here's what it is. Michael Pittman to me is a sell in the same way that Brandon Ayuk and Cortland Sutton are buys. Like, I do believe that, but it's like my secondary priority list because my real buys.
Sad when he got re-signed.
Yeah, my real buys are Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and my real sells are much further down. I have much more pessimism on. So yeah, I'd sell Pitt. The reason I think he's interesting is because I do think people in your league should value him more than that ADP suggests, and I think they will. You'll find someone to be like, yeah, that guy's good because he is. He's proven to be good. And that's why he's on the list. Open 24 hours.
I kind of agree with his placement, but I don't think I would sell him at wide receiver 20 price.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Hey boys, made a deal today. 12-team Superflex Dynasty, full PPR, 1.5 tight end premium. Doesn't matter. Gave Taysom Hill, I love it. Starting the fourth. What about that contract though? I saw something about that. Got Tannehill and Jared Cook. Yeah. I will take this. I will take the starting quarterback. I don't know what Taysom Hill is. The Saints don't. I think this is.
You traded away nothing and got Ryan Tannehill. Good for you, man.
I think that's Sean Payton's passion project or whatever, and I'm not into it. But yeah, I like it. It's cool.
Do you have any Kamara shares? Are you crying that he's still not coming back? He's out. He's already out next week.
I mean, I probably do somewhere, but no, I'm not crying. I really like the player. It is a problem for a running back this year. He's going to get so undervalued because of his age and the team and no Drew Brees.
Yeah, I'm probably going to end up with many Kamara shares next season.
Double down on that. Yeah, that's what it is. And here's I was thinking about this too before my life collapsed around me. I like Adam Harnstead. I like him a lot. I like the way he.
I know you talk about him every single show. Yeah.
I do, don't I? Something about the Dynasty grind. I mean, when you're talking about the grind, you just think Adam. But some of the things he thinks post back-to-back seem confusing or contradictory to me because his researcher, he feels like running backs drop off by age. Like age is the problem. The older you get, the less you can produce. But he's also the person who confirmed my suspicions that there is no drop off for talented players. It's really like a coin flip due to injury. And they drop off a cliff. They don't gradually decline. And so there's always this contradictory nature of getting older does make you more likely to hit that cliff, but players who are older don't stop being good. And it's going to be really tricky because running back, it's so real and it happens so quick. We feel the arc, if you know what I mean, instead of suspecting it with a wide receiver. Like I'm going to want these older running backs this offseason based on the trends and where I think we're going, based on just what we tend to do in Dynasty. But it is going to be awkward. It's going to be like it's good if you get the right ones. It's bad if you don't. Like Derrick Henry's going to be on there. So is Nick Chubb. I mean, Nick Chubb seems to have an age insulator. Like we kept him in the top 12 last year, even though Kamara turned up and he was injured and we weren't sure about the team. And again, he's a top 12 running back performer-wise, at least. So I think that's a lot to do with the Browns, but Chubb is significant. But I think he's gonna get an age. That's the thing. He's going to get an age ding. I think even Chubb will get ding for age.
Like imagine getting Kamara for a first, even though he might not be the running back 1. Oh no, you're paying 1 first for the running back 9. I mean, I'm not going to be sad about that.
It also got into a conversation, talked about it on the Crossroads as well. We talk about player value with first so much. Like it's not like you don't go out and trade your first for Alvin Kamara just because you can and should. There are so many things to buy. It's really about team situation. But I would be trying to find a trade that worked for him.
It's just the most generic value we can give. That's sort of understandable.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. I just think I thought it was an interesting point. Todd, his Twitter hat again brought it up. Like we're meant to trade off first so often at this point. There's almost, and that's what I mean about restrictive buy lists as well. Like you really only get so many things you can try to acquire and have on the same team before you have to recycle them for the other things. So, which
is why you join 26 leagues.
And bear in mind, we're also talking about this off season. I think this is going to be an interesting thing to try and do this off season, where we usually like young running backs purely, especially in Dynasty. But I think running back value will come down a little bit, and we get some of those age discounts on the players we know are the best right now. And I'm not saying for sure, but I'm watching it in my leagues. You're in one of them, so like heads up, you've got most of the running backs in that league. So.
I know it's the weirdest thing in the world. It's the only team I have running backs on.
Matthew Biddle, how you doing, buddy? I joined the stream last week and told you guys about my team status. Well, we appreciate that. The RBs are bad. Only notables are Miles Sanders and Michael Carter, and it's sad that is a bad RB room. To be honest, those pretty good players.
Well, if Carter didn't go and get himself hurt, it'd be a good RB room.
It's been a rough year, and my wide receiver core is of young talent. There are follow-ups. I have 3 firsts, 4 seconds, 3 firsts, 3 thirds in the 2022 draft. Start trying to move to 2023, to be honest. Including the 101. What would you aim for in the draft? In the draft, I have no idea. I have no idea who those players are.
Do you know, is it a super flex league or no? Because Here's the crappy part about everything I'm hearing about this draft class. It's okay. You know, the quarterbacks are pretty good, and the problem is going to be, actually, it's not a problem for you with all of these firsts. While not super flex. All right, so never mind. This doesn't even occur to you. Doesn't even matter to you. Isaiah Spiller, Brees Hall, and Walker, and I'm completely blanking on his first name. Those are the three dudes that you need to pay attention for right now. Close enough. I mean, Spiller is more people's one than anything else that I believe, from what I've heard. But you're not going to know until draft capital and team landing spot. A lot is, see, in Superflex, what I was going to say is, I was talking to Kane Fassell the other day, and he said that almost all of the quarterbacks this year are playing in the Super Bowl, in the Senior Bowl, which is rare. So
kind of a bad thing. Depends.
Yeah, the fact that they feel the need to do that is kind of bad, but also that's very good because everyone gets super hyped at the Senior Bowl. That's true. Which case, in Superflex, it's going to bump those quarterbacks up a bit. So you might not need a top 4 pick to grab a really good running back. You're going to have 3 running backs as your 1, 2, 3 in a 1 QB league. There's going to it's going to be the 3 running backs, and again, it's going to depend on capital and
again it ties back into, well, we're going to want young running backs. Most of the young running backs are going to be new. It's going to be, they're going to be the story of this class. I don't know anything about this class yet. I really start my rookie work in the off season, but I can tell you some things about it generically, Matthew. One, this RB thing is actually a trend that's going to affect how we value these rookie players, even not knowing who they are. And I think that's worth knowing. 2, there are going to be great players and great fantasy players in this class. Just know that. I think the class is going to be talked down overall, and it's going to be talked about a deep class rather than a rich class. But then again, they said that about 2021, and it looks like a pretty damn good class. I expect it to be an underwhelming and disappointment class in hindsight, just because we're kind of due for one of those. But there are going to be good players here. So I would be... in general, I've been thinking about moving some of that draft capital to 2023, just because it's going to have more hype, and so those picks are going to continue to increase. Also, just where you have so much of it, it's always good to keep some value. You want some cash laying around, okay?
Or go the other way around. I would trade, if you can get Javonte Williams for one of those picks, I would easily do that.
You can also try and get into some players that way as well, and that's definitely worth exploring. But I would be exploring those ways of moving that draft capital around. Your toes on that. No, you're good. I don't think I was thinking about mentioning that because I was in the draft capital mindset. Having said that, I think 2022 class is going to be under-talked. Like it is right now. It's starting to get a little muted vibes. Apart from Ray G. Q, who basically loves every draft class and will hype you up on all of it.
He's so excitable.
He is fun. He's just fun.
Yes.
And he loves players so much, and that's part of what makes it so good and also so fun to listen, and definitely check him out. Along with Kane, they're great for Devi analysis. But I think this class is, in general, in broad, going to be less valued than the 2021 or the 2023. So if your league's not there yet, it's worth trying to get some 2023 capital anyway. Even though I'd be try that broadly. But if you go and try and do that and you find people already there in your league, don't be too scared of this class. You can move them for players, like Russ said, but there will be good players here. Just almost be more willing to stick to your guns, because it's not necessarily the number 1 wide receiver is going to be the best wide receiver. If you like the number 3 better, be willing to reach a little bit. But again, not knowing more about this class, I'm talking in generic terms, but that's what I suspect of this class based on patterns.
But also, from what I hear, you're absolutely correct. There is a tier of like 15 wide receivers. There is no Jamar Chase. There is no one dude that's above everyone else. So you will be able to pick your player, pick your landing spot, pick your draft capital, whatever it is you look for in who you like to draft in wide receivers in your dynasty leagues, and go with it, because you're going to find your favorite. There isn't going to be as of now, there isn't a consensus favorite. And even if there is, who cares? Take the guy you like. I mean,
I'd be very willing to do that.
N'Keal Harry is making everyone very sad, and DK Metcalf is making people very happy. So
And I don't like to do this so much anymore because it puts too many names on it and you start thinking like they're one-to-one comparisons. But like after 2014, we got the 2016 and 17 and 18 draft classes, all of them basically failures. But go back and look, there were great players there. If you could identify
17 draft a failure?
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean there are running backs, but wide receivers, no. And
There's
certainly not in
backs,
and not in the early wide receiver ranks as well. But you will find great players from those classes, but it's thought of as a lesser period of wide receivers because the early ones kind of struggled. But and that's what I mean by be willing to reach on your guy because the ranks aren't going to help you. But again, I'm talking more in general. I'm probably too long. Sorry, Matt. But yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where my head would be. Thinking about trading into 2023, into some 2021 players. But not being scared of this class too much. Dustin Oz, evening, gents. I appreciate that, man. It feels like a compliment. I don't get many of those. A bit of a random question. I've got too many guys on Superflex rosters with guys coming off IR. I need to drop 2. Oh, okay. Mac and Tyler Johnson still worth rostering in Dynasty. I think Tyler Johnson is for me personally, but if you need roster space, it's not like you have to. I would white knuckle it, but you don't have to because I white knuckle my lower drafted guys. Mac, yes, he's a roster clogger at this point, and that sounds mean, but because he's a good player, but he is.
You drop them both.
You can drop them both.
Someone will pick up Tyler Johnson, but who cares? Let him sit there. It's fine.
I care. There's probably a tight end on there you could probably drop. I'm just throwing that out there. Having a tough time dropping them. Still think they may have value. And
try and trade him for a third or a fourth. See what happens.
And
throw it to every single team in the league.
Mac being a running back, he's gonna have value at some point. He'll be behind someone else and be the sleeper running back and probably have a few games because he's a good player. But he's a roster clogger. You don't know when to start him. He doesn't have enough value to trade, and it feels tough to drop him. I think that's a 3-part definition. Ryan McDowell has. I'm struggling today, guys. Okay, I can't remember names. Not Superflex. That was from earlier. We're behind again. Spock 498. Hey, buddy. Thoughts on Russ Wilson? I like this Russ. He's pretty cool. What would be his trade value as of now? 12-team Superflex. I mean, it should be pretty dang high. He continues to fall off in the second half of seasons. I continue to say that's not like a natural law, but he continues to try and prove that it is. He's a phenomenally talented quarterback, and a Superflex. Most quarterbacks should be worth 2 firsts, and Russell Wilson should be worth more than that.
He's going to look great in a Giants jersey next season.
That's fine. Yeah, he's phenomenally talented and a quarterback, and don't worry about age as much as everyone tends to want to.
With quarterbacks, no, you don't have to worry about that.
If you're just really trying to churn a roster or a rebuild, then yeah, I definitely more than 2 firsts to a team that's contending or not scared about age.
I don't know if you'll get more than 2 firsts.
I don't know if you'll get it, but that's why most of the
settle for 2 as long as one of them's decent.
Okay. If you're really rebuilding, yeah. Okay. If you had ETN, how would you trade him? It depends on the league, depends on where those rosters are. In general, you're going to go to the bottom 3-4 teams, see what they've got that's about points, even if you're not trying to win, but you still think it's going to be good next year, and you offer ETN for that guy. And maybe ask for a second, because ETN's going to have more future value. Yeah, go for it. I think so.
I have recently acquired 2 shares of Travis Etienne on teams that are rebuilding. Paid practically firsts because they were part of bigger deals, but practically first in each of them. And that's cool. That's fine. Honestly, I don't really have super faith in Etienne. Not to lie, I don't have faith in the Jaguars. Plus, I do believe James Robinson is still the dude there, which means Etienne isn't going to be a workhorse, which I don't know. I don't think he was anyway, but that's besides the point.
I think Urban wanted him to be, honestly, to be clear.
I think he wanted him to be a freaking slot receiver because Urban Meyer's terrible at this. But
so many.
Okay, so here's if you have him on your team, your best move is at the trade deadline, if you have them, which you shouldn't, right after the season ends, when people are like, oh, my team sucks, I'm going to be the first to start making moves, or 3, when that first video comes out of him running. boom, prices go nuts. Always with running backs, when they're injured, that first video of them just running in a straight line means absolutely nothing about anything. Like, they tear their ACL and then they're running in a straight line, and we're excited. Like, no, the problem isn't running in a straight line. The problem is digging your foot into the ground and cutting and, getting hit in the leg. Like, those are the things that matter. So, but it doesn't matter. We get so excited. The second that there's a video of him looking healthy, his value will go up a little bit. And maybe his voice will go up a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, any of those times. But honestly, I don't think it's getting higher than a first anyway. So at any of these points, if someone's like, no, here, I'll give you a first, or here, I'll give you this player worth a first who is hopefully young and has a future, just like ETN is, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's think of him as a discount first. Like, he is more limiting than a first because you only get the one player, not potential of many others. But that's about where his value is at, and it's going to continue to increase as time moves on, and he gets closer and closer to being healthy, because he will get closer and closer to being healthy from there, especially in the off season where you don't have week-to-week games where you could re-injure himself or get injured again. That's where I'd be on him. Which ultimately, I think, for your question, the way I would try to trade him is you don't have to trade him right now. Timing isn't everything. If you get a good deal, you can, but don't feel you have to undersell him right now. That's first off. Second is literally my method would be go to look for the teams that are definitely aware that they're trading for the future, because I think they'll be more willing to trade for ETN and see what they've got, what you want, and what reasonable deal you can work out with them for. It doesn't necessarily have to include a first or their first or your first or their second, anything in particular. It's just a deal that's fair around that value for both of your teams. That would be my methodology. And maybe those 4 teams don't want to, which is fine, which is where I wouldn't panic. I think he's going to continually get easier to trade from here on out. Yeah, Russ made that point. It was a good point. My head was in wide receivers. Dustin Oz, appreciate the response. No problem, man. What else are we doing here, to be honest? You articulated my feelings on Mac better than I could. I agree. I just needed that affirmation that dropping him is a smart move. I mean, no problem, man. I appreciate it. It's just my thoughts, though. I get stuff wrong, but I really don't think, like, if you dropped it and it turned out to be wrong, it's a smart move, and then I think 9 out of 10 good players will also make that move. So
process over results, baby.
Yeah. Everything could go wrong. What do you guys prioritize in a rebuild? Value.
Wide receivers.
Which is why there's, wide receivers kind of top the list in terms of players, because they play longer. The value tends to stretch longer as well. But ultimately, the reason is the value. Like, you're just looking to stockpile enough value that you can rebuild the team strongly. Wide receiver is a great way of doing that.
Well, you want players that hold their value the longest, and the players that have the longest, I think I just said that, hold their value the longest. Because here's the thing. Rookie wide receivers, in a normal world, rookie wide receivers don't produce. These guys are just doing too freaking well right away. But usually it takes 3 years. So if you're rebuilding, you still don't want those points right away. So Michael Pittman is a great example. Didn't do much his first year. Second year, doing great. But if you were to draft a rookie running back who you do hope to score points right away, you're hurting yourself a little bit. So the best way to really do this is get the players that need time to mature, grab a bunch of wide receivers. I like to grab a couple of dart throw tight ends. No one of any value whatsoever. Give me like the Hunter Longs and Jacob Harris's right now, and just stockpile a bunch of them. And then as you get a little closer, one QBs are pretty cheap. So if you can grab, I mean, like before the season started, if you grabbed like Mac Jones or Zach Wilson, cool. But then when you have that wide receiver core that's built and ready to go, if one of your tight ends hit, one of your QBs are ready to go, that's when you start spending your capital on the guys that will score. That's when you grab your running backs. If you didn't happen to hit on a quarterback or a tight end, that's when you send a second for the Kirk Cousins of the world. I mean, it doesn't take much to get a quarterback into one QB. Tight ends, if it's not one of the top 3 to 5 tight ends, you can get, especially if there's no premium, you can get a good tight end. You can get Gesicki or Goddard for a second and plug those in, and all of a sudden you're competing. That's why you get the players where you actually wait for the maturity on your team to happen, and then you get the guys that have the shorter career spurts, the guys who don't necessarily hit right away. You throw them in. You need to build a core of your long-lasting value and then slap the rest together as you go.
Yeah, exactly. I just go more generic than that. With it's about the value, and I think the getting creative with it is a really interesting idea. Like, you could have been making a play on Ertz, which in a one quarterback league, very easy to get a quarterback, very easy to get Ertz over the last 3 weeks. His value shoots up a little bit now. Even if you just add a little bit by trading him right back now this season, you can make it. And that's why I say value, because you can get a little more creative with it. Like, where quarterback and tight end, it depends on your league. You really don't have to be creative, but I'm in league with fucking degenerates like Russ here who literally see you coming. So you got to try what you can.
Well, and also when you poll Twitter about a trade you want to make, including, and then tag me on it, yeah, I see you coming.
Well, that wasn't a trick though. That wasn't trying to,
like, think about it. You made the perfect
win overall. A fair trade, but you think you can get more value than points out of it is essentially what I'm saying. And with tight ends are always going to be a little undervalued, especially in one quarterback leagues, even in sharp leagues, because we think wide receiver, we think running back, then we think tight end and quarterback in one quarterback leagues. And it's not like those guys don't flip their value as well and have difference making points some years. And so sometimes I investigate the Geseckis and the Fants because I think they'll be more valuable at some point, and they're a little easy to trade for. It's not like they're easy. You don't get them cheap. But sometimes people are more willing to trade them.
Yeah, but like you gave a perfect example. Like right now, let's pretend you had really good wide receivers and you got lucky and drafted like Elijah Mitchell in like the third or whenever, or second or third, wherever he was going. I can't even remember. Or Michael Carter. Like, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, a lot of my team is pretty good. You could send a second and a third to a team that has Cam Newton and Zach Ertz, and you're competing based off those, pieces. So, I mean, again, only in one quarterback is it that easy. If it's a super flex league, you build around wide receivers and quarterbacks because they're the most valuable. They're the hardest to get. So you want to have that before you start doing the rest. But yeah, no, you save that for last. You start with the youth. You start with the guys whose value is more worthwhile on your team, especially if you don't have a very active league. Like if you have a super active league, yeah, you go and you draft Najee Harris anyway because you'll always be able to trade a stud running back.
Yeah, think about it that way. Like, if I'm actively trying to win, which is most of the time, even with bad teams, that's just kind of where my mindset is. I don't care how many of my things and many of the things on my roster or my picks are attractive to other people. And then when I'm like, this team sucks, I need out, I need to do something, which I guess was what you'd call rebuild or churn or whatever. I want more tradable assets, like things other people will want to trade for. And that to me is value, because value is so fucking, pardon me, so ethereal. Like there's no one value. Like a first round pick is an incredible thing in some trades that I see. In others, it's like being given away for a small chance at some, like it's very subjective. And so that's what I mean by value. It's like how I want to make more of the things on my roster, picks, claims to certain players, stats lines, as I want more of them attractive to as many people in my league as possible. So it stops being whether I like them or I think they're good at all. It's whether these things will get more or are more tradable than what I currently have. And that's why picks end up being in the conversation a lot, because most people at some point are going to want or be interested in draft capital.
Yeah.
Spot, big dynasty riser from this week. Brandon Ayuk shut up again, right?
Yeah, which was nice to see.
Yep.
I mean, but also Kittle did too, which is nice to see. He has 3 games in a row now of actually producing, which is nice. To me, Jonathan Taylor has solidified himself as the RB1.
See, this is the thing where, like, I get that Kittle's value is probably solidified up, and that's worth paying attention to. Again, if you're looking at value, then you need to be aware of those things. I wasn't thinking about him enough because I'd never moved him. It's like, yeah, he's good.
Oh, see, I was, and I didn't think he was dead, but I was worried. Not gonna lie.
I just assumed Jonathan Taylor was running back 1 like 3 weeks ago, and that's not like a flex. That's like most people in doing dynasty ranks probably would have been about there. But you're right, that was such an amazing game.
But Austin Eckler, 50 points will do it. I was going back and forth.
Like where are we at on that run drafting free agent scoring 4 touchdowns a game? Jonathan Taylor getting all the noise, and Austin Eckler goes out and scores 4 touchdowns. I mean,
well, everyone knows how awesome he is. I love Austin Eckler. But,
I went up and I symbolically moved him up my ranks because there really was nowhere for him to go, but I jiggled the tier a little bit just to get him a bump because that's my boy.
I went back and forth in my head between Jonathan Taylor and Najee Harris, and because for a while the Colts were being stupid and still giving the ball to Nyheim Hines. They've stopped. And that's all it took. That's all it took. And he's shown that that's what he does. Yeah, JT to the moon. Man, I don't know if there's any wide receivers that really all of a sudden bam now moved up. But
I think there's a lot of solidification. If you're asking for ones that literally moved up, Brandon Ayuk started to, but I think he definitely reclimbed back to somewhere he was before this week because that was a great game for both him and Samuel, and showing that the team can find work for both these great players was good to see. And you're probably right. Jonathan Taylor, even though he was running back 1, now he's like a thirsty running back 1. I was like, Jonathan Taylor, that's fair. And then Elijah Mitchell, again, I don't think he moved much, but I think everyone's much more aware of it, much more excited about Elijah Mitchell. Rondale Moore got a lot of targets. I think people are still going to complain about his ADOT, which makes him the rookie I'm most interested in right now.
Yeah, but that's also... I'm going to write that off because it was Colt McCoy and not Kyler.
Yeah, that's the thing. I really like Rondale Moore. I like the fact
he's very, very
targets.
Good. Yeah.
He's very good. I don't care that
he's a great buy now because I think
that's what I mean. I think he's the most
get even better.
Like Mitchell has been getting the volume and not quite getting the production, so people are aware he's good. But after a few good games, you're like, it's really much harder to trade for him. So I think he solidified it more than Rose.
Yeah, I see that.
But Devontae Smith's back down. Didn't score a touchdown this week, so people might forget him. Who knows?
He's the worst.
God, Bob's here, so we got to talk about
you didn't actually answer the question.
I didn't. Who wins? Terry and Andrews. I receive Terry McLaurin and Mark Andrews, I'm going to guess.
I'm assuming.
Pittman, Henderson, and Knox. Terry and Andrews. Terry and Andrews all day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Terry
that's what I mean.
Pittman. Henderson's good. At Knox is... I like the idea of what Knox is doing, but I won't believe it for a while because that offense is so weird lately. But yeah, Terry and Andrews, they're just so dependable that I would easily take them too.
Tight ends seem to show up for a while and disappear so often it's hard to believe in Knox, but he's having a good season. And that's what I mean. This is what I mean about Pittman. Like Terry's just clearly in another class, even though it's very fair to think Pittman's there. And then Andrews is just a different kind of value asset, especially. Like it's much easier to trade Mark Andrews away than Knox, for example, at value. And so, yeah, it's a Terry and Andrews side all day. I think he did great.
I think so.
Bob wants to know about Kyle Pitts. Get Kyle Pitts. No, because
how?
His price is way below his value right now because of you, basically. Because of you.
I tried to trade for Kyle Pitts in a league that I'm blowing my team up. And my beautiful, wonderful, brilliant, amazing co-host Rocky Petrella said he would not trade Kyle Pitts for Nick Chubb and Mike Evans.
Right. I can get Mark Andrews or George Kittle or Travis Kelce at this point, or freaking anyone easier than Kyle Pitts, because the guy who's got Kyle Pitts in my league has been correctly told by you and John Bosch that he should be worth everything. So his price is just below his value right now. He's underwater or whatever they call it. Dustin Oz. I have Seals Jones. Condolences? With Ian Thomas coming back soon, better to drop RSJ and keep Tyler Johnson.
Drop him and Ian Thomas.
Yeah, all three of those are droppable. Of the three, I would keep Tyler Johnson.
Yes, knowing those two guys, you can easily drop either of them.
But yeah, it's whichever one you like, but all three are droppable. Like it's not a oh, you idiot! Of course they were going to go off. That no one knows that.
Yeah, pick
someone will tell you that after it happens, but no one knows that.
Yeah.
Spock 498. Are we trusting to start Elijah Moore? Zach Wilson's such a unhealthy issue. I'm fine to start Elijah Moore. I don't
want to start Zach Wilson, but I'll start Elijah Moore.
I think he's a top 24. It's definitely a top 36 most weeks wide receiver. So Moore is infinitely startable. Where do I have him this week? I'm on the wrong tab.
It was awesome to see Joe Flacco giving him that many targets. Of course, Joe Flacco to Zach Wilson
again, to be honest,
mean absolutely nothing to each other. So you can't say he's going to get them again. And I don't think I care, because Elijah Moore has the ability to do these things he's doing. He didn't get lucky. It wasn't because of the amazing play of Joe Flacco. He did what he did. He's done it with a couple of quarterbacks at this point. So it's about time we just trusted Elijah Moore's good and just you play him, because he's safe and he can do awesome.
And this week in specific, because I can't speak today, I've got him at wide receiver 30 right now. That's a little lower than market, which is around 26, 27, looking at other projection agencies, which means he's definitely startable. He's a wide receiver 3, unless you've got two top 24, top 12 wide receivers, you're starting him.
If you're in a league where you start 2 wide receivers, maybe you don't start Elijah Moore. But assuming you're starting pretty good 10 players-ish.
So, yeah, if he's the next guy you want to start, I have no problem with it. Yeah, definitely trusting him to get the volume at this point. Rookies average more down the stretch. It's the one group of players that do. So it also fits what we should expect. Do I trust starting AJ Brown? Yeah.
I have
in the same way
team, and I traded AJ Brown away. I'm out.
That's a self-report. Why? Not that I don't know. I just think it'd be interesting to hear.
That offense, the hamstrings, pick something. And, I'm not ready. Wow. You're like contagious. Your lack of words is falling onto me. It's 11 o'clock already. Sorry, never mind. That it's all on me. No, because he has this season, back-to-back games, he put up like 27 and 31 points. He's absolutely capable of doing that. That doesn't seem like what this offense is, especially without Derrick Henry. Even like when Derrick Henry was healthy, Tannehill was throwing to the weirdest people. Chester Rogers was the wide receiver 1 for a minute, and then Marcus Johnson, I don't even remember what his name is, but he was the wide receiver 1 on the team 2 weeks ago. No, I don't trust AJ Brown. And yes, I was buying him so hard before this season. And I got Travis Kelce for him at a 1.75 premium. I was thrilled. And all day we talked about it on Trade Addicts on Monday, and I had to defend myself pretty hard again, with Rocky and Larry Monkey on the show. But I feel so good about doing that I don't care that they told me I was wrong.
This week in particular, he's a top 30 wide receiver, so you start him as often as you start Elijah Moore. He's no longer that top 12. Dynasty-wise,
but that's the problem.
I get the concern, but
was there, which is why I sell.
He's almost the exact, like, every problem which is legitimate and real and understandable with him. Like, I don't think players are perpetually injury prone. Like, I think he can play. Situations change, that kind of stuff. If his value drops, I'm buying, but I can't buy it where he was before because the risk is significantly greater.
He's still probably valued as a top 6-ish, top 5 wide receiver, and it's not there for me anymore at all.
Like, at the same price, how many wide receivers do I take over him? 5 or 6 before these injuries. It was probably 3 max.
Tyreek Hill or AJ Brown?
I would take AJ Brown. I just don't like rostering Tyreek Hill, though.
Devontae Adams.
Yeah, that's about where the line is. So
easily Devontae Adams. DJ Moore.
I take AJ Brown.
Stephon Diggs.
I'm on team old guy. I take Diggs.
Cooper Kupp?
AJ Brown has just as much upside though, and youth. So it really depends on team situation. Who?
Cooper Kupp.
Same thing.
Terry McLaurin.
Situation. I don't know. I have to look.
I'm taking Terry McLaurin. After Terry McLaurin is like Debo, Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin. Like, once we get past Debo and Deontay Johnson, which to me The answer is AJ Brown, and it should be AJ Brown. But Debo and DeAndre are doing so freaking well right now that I wouldn't hate on someone pivoting. You'd get plus if you trade. I mean, you can get both of those guys for AJ Brown right now. And how baller of a move is that?
That's different. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. The reason I stop on one-to-one trades there is I think AJ Brown's upside is more than Terry's and DJ Moore's. Both of them have a higher likely upside.
I am all aboard the Terry McLaurin train. I think that dude is QB proof.
Yeah, I think he's great. He's easily top 12 for me. I forget exactly where I ranked him. It's pretty high.
Well, he's 11 on DLF ADP.
Well, dang it, man. How high do you need to get on players? It's almost impossible to be
one. If you ain't first, you're last.
That's just true, Ricky Bobby. I love that movie way too much. Gee, I'm not vamping to look at my wide receiver wanks at all.
No, move on to the next question because we're going to talk about AJ Brown again later.
All right. I'm not moving on.
No, seriously, he asked about AJ Brown later, so
7th.
Keep going.
I have him ranked 7th. What are you asking for a top 2 pick in this team's in a 10-team superflex? I'm guessing this year. James Robinson and a 2023 first, or a 2023 first and late first this year.
Well, James Robinson to me is worth a late first, so yeah. That's fine.
Either's fair. I'd probably take the draft capital, but it's because it has more, just in a vacuum, because that pick has more traction to more players in my league.
Yeah,
than James
very
Robinson.
fair. Or if you happen to have this pick and you're competing, then go take James Robinson. If you're not and you just want off the pick, take the first this year and the first next year. That's pretty awesome.
You're also trading into 2023, which until leagues tilt towards undervaluing 2022 is the move to make. So if your league's there,
draft, so
keep going. What should I sell Cortland Sutton for? I'm on the opposite train right now. I'm looking at most of my leagues trying to trade for him. I haven't found a league where I can find a good trade for him yet. But I would
so sad they extended him. I wanted him to walk so bad.
Tim Patrick's awesome. Shut the fuck up.
No, that's the problem. Him and Judy are really good, and they fit better with Teddy Bridgewater. They fit better in the game that Denver wants to play. They're not like they didn't play Drew Lock for a reason. They want their defense to do well. They want to run the ball, and they want efficient passing. Cortland Sutton is a contested catch guy. That's what he is. He's not a separation guy. And that's not what the team wants. It's not what Teddy Bridgewater wants. So why do you extend him? Why do you spend so much money at wide receiver at this point? Like, you don't extend Sutton, and you let Rodgers and Devontae Adams come over as a combo next year. That's what you do. See, I should be a GM. Go away, John Elway.
That's what I was trying to find the words for. Yeah, I can't wait for you to be a GM. For my part, I like Cortland Sutton a lot. I definitely think he's better than what we're seeing right now.
Yes.
Situations change, so I'm buying. Where is that line is a fair question, though. If it's just a single first, I want the Cortland Sutton side.
You're not getting more. I honestly
over that.
Buy for a first, sell for a second. It's in that weird spot right now. Like, honestly,
like between the two. And because you shouldn't necessarily trade first when trying to get better at that, what kind of player are you trying to send? Like, if I can sell, even if I'm competing, if I can send Darrell Henderson and get Cortland Sutton, there's more dynasty upside than that.
Yes, 1,000%. And, that's a trade that could happen because Darrell Henderson scoring a lot of points right now. No,
and he's good.
That's a perfect trade because Darrell Henderson is worth like a late first right now.
So you should be looking for that good running back scoring points that may have a good role next year, but isn't locked in definitely next year. James Robinson is another good example. A wide receiver, you shouldn't do same position trades, in my opinion.
Correct.
But I think you should. I've probably got to move Cortland Sutton down. That's painful.
Yeah, well, I mean, here, like even in November ADP, Cortland Sutton, and let's go below him, Devonta Smith, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen. You're not getting any of these guys. Marquise Brown, Mike Williams, Jalen Waddle, and here you hit Allen Robinson.
He's that range, but old guy.
Right, but like also Keenan like Rashad Allen, Bateman. I don't know if you're not getting Bateman at this point. Tyler Lockett, you might be able to do.
They're too young. The value's just too different.
Brandon Ayuk, here's wide receiver 33, Elijah Moore, which I don't think you're getting Elijah Moore for Sutton anymore. Juju, I love that move.
Juju Claypool, maybe.
Well,
He's a little deeper. But...
Well, no, Claypool is right up next to Sutton.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you want to do that swap,
those are the type of wide receivers I'm thinking of making a deal around to get rid of Sutton.
Or go get Rondale Moore in a second.
Rondale Moore's another good one.
Cortland Sutton in a third for Rondale Moore in a second. Like, that would be the most beautiful thing ever.
So and you got to go see go see what's on the rosters in your league and what team might be interested in Sutton and who they have kind of in that range, and see if you can work out a deal that you like. That's again the method. Bob is talking to Spock. I am moving AJ Brown before people realize how old he is. He's 54. I broke the news. I don't care. But yeah, he's a little older than most guys think of.
He's 24. He's been in the league for 2 years.
Yeah, but he's in a tier with players who are 22.
You mean even wide receiver right below him who's 27, the wide receiver right below him who's 28,
they're coming
the wide receiver right below him who's 24, the wide receiver right below him that's 27,
the
wide receiver right below him that's 28, the wide receiver right below him is 26, the wide receiver right below him that's 25, the wide receiver right below him is 25, the wide receiver right below him is 25, and then we hit T. Higgins who's 22. Oh, but then there's the 26, 29, 27.
Their values off. AJ Brown is spoken on in a conversation with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb. He's talked about with DK Metcalf because he's big and good and fairly young, but he is the older of that group. And Bob may have a slight point. It doesn't panic me, but I think Dynasty might react to that, especially with injuries. He's the same age as Terry McLaurin. Jackson G. I traded Mark Andrews, Gaskin, and Mike Williams for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Hawkinson, and Devonta Smith. I'm hoping, not Freeman. A few weeks back, and now watching Goff play makes me want to throw up. That's fair. That's a fair reaction. What young tight end do you value more than Hawk? That's not Pitts.
No one.
So Hawkinson's
the Lions are going to draft a quarterback. Just hold on to Hawk. He does pretty well most games with the trash that is the QB play in Detroit. They're going to have a top pick. They're going to draft a quarterback. That quarterback is going to love Hawkinson, who is pretty much the only viable pass catcher. So just don't panic. Ride it out because Hawk is very, very good.
Yeah, I think I value him below, and I gotta update my ranks. I value him below Andrews, Kittle, Waller, Pitts, Kelsey. But you got to realize it's a really high tier.
Hawk's the youngest besides Pitts out of all of them.
Yeah,
which is why I said no one. That wasn't meant to say that Hawk's my tight end 1 or 2 or anything. But just everyone above him is older.
The 2 I have ranked above him, which I don't think is right because I don't think it's obvious why. But I want to acquire Noah Fant and Mike Gesicki more, because I think they're good and will keep producing and easier to get. But my rank, with my ranks is screwing people up. I think I might just convert back to value.
But if you wanted to do Hawk for Fant plus, Hawk for Gesicki plus all day, even Goddard, he's older, and he just got the extension, so he's safe. So that's absolutely fine. If you want off of Hawk, don't worry about being super young. They're tight ends. They play forever.
Age matters less, and we generally think, and definitely at tight end. If you really just want to go full out youth, trade for Pat Freiermuth plus a lot.
Yes,
plus
that is brilliant. Yes,
but generally you don't have to. Russ is right. There's no younger tight end who should be ranked higher. But isn't he 24? I think he's talking about AJ Brown. I think he's 25.
Yes, he's 24. Okay. Well, DLF has him at 24.
Okay. Value in picks, you go, Russ, because I'm a little too high on.
He is still valued at wide receiver 4, 5-ish, which means he's going to be worth 2 first plus. And
again, that doesn't mean you have to rush out and send the picks. It's a value market.
Yes, it is absolutely a generic value gauge.
And that's why we're trying to come up with names. Like, you're looking for a youngish running back scoring points with maybe value next year, not definite value next year, plus something for Brown.
But I mean,
or an older wide receiver, like
if you're competing, and like I did, AJ Brown for Kelsey to me was such a brilliant move, especially in a tight end premium the way I have. If you could send AJ Brown for like Devontae Adams, even straight up, I would do that because you're getting the production, and you could be like, hey man, you're buying back like 4 years, go for it, man. Devontae Adams is still going to be great next year. Tyreek Hill is still going to be great next year.
The value is real, but you tend to get better deals if you just aren't scared off by the age so much. Like having Devontae Adams the next 2 years is going to be great.
Yes,
it's not going to feel like losing.
And don't think longer than 2 years out, because
like
if you're
worried about how he's going to help you win in 3 years, like you probably need to churn that roster harder than we're describing. To be honest, and in which case, you do go for younger players of less caliber with more picks. So
don't sell AJ Brown for what he's doing now. Sell AJ Brown for the hype he was before the season, because it's still there. I'm not there.
Yeah, if you really don't think you can win this year or next year, don't go for Devontae Adams. Outside of that,
yes, correct.
Yeah,
he made your point.
That's what I was saying. But you said it better. I don't like you very much right now. Dustin Oz, I'm all about the fringe players tonight. Okay, cool. Thoughts on DJ Dallas and Des Fitzpatrick? No, man. Sorry, man. I've been literally up to here in plumber's putty for 2 days. I don't have thoughts, and I can tell you their projections. DJ Dallas, I liked him a lot as a deep running back once upon a time. I think he's got a skill set that's interesting for the NFL. Des Fitzpatrick just feels like a maybe catch a touchdown kind of a fella.
DJ Dallas would be great in another team. He doesn't fit with the Seahawks too.
Yeah,
he fell into the end. He was the one random running back that fell into the end zone. Not this week. I think the week before. I can't remember anymore. Time melts together. But you're never going to want to start either of these guys. They're not going to turn into lead players next year or anything like that. So
this is an interesting one because we've answered this so much. His values are first, but he's a really tradable player right now, because if you're trying to win, you're top 3, you should trade for him. You don't have to send a first, but you should be willing to spend in and around that value.
I think you have to.
And if you have him and you're not like 60% in all play, you should probably be trying to see what you can get out on, even though he's going to have a role next year.
If you have to take 2 seconds, you take 2 seconds, but you should try and get first.
3 seconds. And that's the thing. No one wants to trade a first, especially the closer we get to a draft. So you're looking for a Chase Claypool, one of these wide receivers who have upside, have youth, longer term value. But if you're trying to win, it's worth sending one of those guys plus a second round pick, because it's good to have a third running back in your roster when you're trying to win. And he's scoring points. And I do think he's going to, he has top 24 upside next year, even with Cam Akers coming back.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Gotcha.
AJ Brown.
That was Russ's concern. Like, watch the stream, Bob.
No. The answer is just, we could say just no and move on.
Okay. I'm really not. Like, it's not a problem.
At all. No.
Good players play different. All of them play slightly differently. You shouldn't be looking for the exact thing. I mean, this is a Deebo Samuels type thing.
And plus,
could he
fail
out?
Season,
sure, but I don't think so.
I mean, we're going to hit DeAndre Hopkins not being DeAndre Hopkins at some point, right? I think he's going to be, he's only like 28 right now, right? Or 29.
Yeah, he's in there. He's in his prime, really.
But he's fine. Okay, never mind. But AJ Green won't be. And I think AJ Green's going to, whatever. I don't think they're going to pay Christian Kirk when it comes down to it, which I think is either next year or the year after. So every week that passes, that Rondale Moore, I think, is going to earn more and more playtime. And plus, we don't know what the offense is anymore because Kyler's been gone for 6 weeks. So I think I'm exaggerating. It might be 4, but whatever. It feels like it's forever. But no, don't be scared.
Yeah, we fell into this because it's a really good methodology or process of trying to find comparisons and archetypes for players. And it really is a solid tool, and I do it a lot. But just because someone doesn't fit your favorite one doesn't mean they're not great at their own archetype.
Yes, 1,000%. Wide receiver doesn't mean...
Just because Jarvis Landry is like no other wide receiver doesn't mean he wasn't incredibly fantasy productive. He is slightly like others since, because once you see one do well, other NFL teams pick up the idea that it can happen. And so, no, I'm not. As long as you think he's good, what is he exceptionally good at what he does? That's what you care about. Because the positional terms are just for us for shorthand. When I've started to think about it in those terms, like why. Like, there's no real comparison between Julio Jones and Jarvis Landry or Michael Gallup. I mean, it's not the same. It's not the same. It hits different. I'm looking for a cool way of saying it, but I can't think of one. And you said we should just move on from that. Look at that. Under Armour 12 Big Pappy. I've acquired 4 2023 first. Good job.
Good for
and
you.
depending on the price. Do you guys think the value will go up, or is everyone already valuing them peak value? No, I think picks always go up in value.
1,000%.
I really thought that about 2020 picks. Like at this point, how can we value them more? And it just honestly continued to be better. There is a peak, but I really don't think we're at it. They're not as tradable right now as they will be the closer we get to the draft at minimum. So no, again, it's not about the timing; it's about the trade, though. If you're getting offered, God's elbow or something for a first, I don't know what that is either. I just
I'm gonna use that though.
It's just a thing I said.
Look, if you can get a God's elbow deal, you take it.
Yeah, obviously, as the common saying goes. But if you don't, you should be feeling no pressure. That is essentially the value of picks, because you don't have to. You don't have to draft a player. You don't have to get rid of them. They're liquidy, and that's what's nice about them. So don't
liquidy.
If you're getting peak value trades, trade them. But no, you don't have to. Michael Thomas is woefully undervalued based on the ADP I've seen. He's like wide receiver 30 and something I saw posted the other day, and that's silly. He's a buy. He's a strong buy for me.
Yeah, because especially you're going to probably be able to send a late second for him at this point, because you're going to have people that just want nothing to do with him. And the truth is, he's a very good wide receiver that hasn't gotten hit in 2 years. So there's a chance he comes back and he's good.
Unless my team is seriously over the hill, in which case I'll include some of them in the deal anyway, because you do have to maintain that balance. Michael Thomas is a clear buy for me. For me, I don't know. His talent's good. Jarvis, hey, welcome back. Hola, amigos. I'm sorry, I butchered that. What's Ramondre the Rhino Stevenson, ultimate upside next season. Top 24 running back. No, for the Patriots, he could pull a goddamn LeGarrette Blount. He really could, and have
who the hell knows?
It's TD so dependent top 12 season. His value, though, I don't think it will climb above any New England running back value. It's top 24. You're struggling to get a second. If it's easy to trade him right now, then I would, because even though he has that upside, his value is always going to be a little patrioty, Hopkins is 30. He's done, and he's a Bosch guy. Can't wait to see what he does. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Wide receivers hit their prime, and in Dynasty, it's a graveyard. It's fun. What do you guys think of doing with Hopkins? Depends on the team, Bob, but I'm not scared that he will stop being good anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's on most of my competing teams at this point.
Value isn't performance. Joannis, does Tutu's rookie season matter? It matters a lot, okay? At this point, you're going to be strongly concerned, and not because he's small, but because he didn't earn shit. He didn't get on the field with shit, and that's the problem. Yeah, he's hard to run. He's on my Tyler Johnson list. I want to cling to him just because I want to see how that work. I want to see that work out. And they were great in college, but roster spots are valuable, and sometimes it's difficult. It matters a lot. It sucks which also the fact he was a 3rd round pick. This is because this floor was possible. So unfortunately, that's where we're at, Giants. Sorry. I was offered 3 first round picks and Jalen Waddle in exchange for Najee Harris. Take it. Currently, yeah. It's not. I like Najee Harris a lot.
I really like
think
Najee
he's going to be
Harris.
great. It's going to be great going forward. I don't care as much about efficiency, but everyone's worth 3 first round picks.
3 first and Waddle. I love.
And
Waddle.
you're getting Waddle. That's an amazing deal.
I mean, Javonte, you're fine to ride Javonte. AJ Dillon is going to keep the workload when Aaron Jones comes back. Aaron Jones isn't going to be a workhorse. It's going to be split. So you're going to have an RB2 out of one of those guys.
This is a trade that could end a season-winning league, though. A season-winning performance. So, like losing Najee, like you're going to be struggling to win from here on out. So if you're seriously in contention, and I mean, like you're pretty sure you're in the final, then maybe I would consider not doing it. But that's an amazing trade. I don't think you get that very often.
Yeah.
So I'd be highly tempted, even if it risks my season. That's how much value he's throwing at you. Then again, your leagues. If first round picks literally no trades ever happen, then yeah, maybe it's worth a little bit less. But in any of my leagues, that would be an insanely high trade. BJ Lee, how you doing? Trade Kelsey for Waddle and a first? Yes. Rebuilding thoughts. Yeah. And I love Kelsey. I think he's going to be good again next year. Again, just because he's old doesn't mean but that's too much. Again, like the last one, it's not that you have to, but that's all the value. That's as good a value as you can know. Waddle's this is a great rookie season from a player I was uncertain on coming on. He's one rookie I've really moved up in my ranks.
And I don't think this is the apex of his game. Like, he's being used like Jarvis Landry, but he's more talented than that. So I think with the evolution of that offense and Tua getting healthy, hopefully, that I think he'll be able to do more.
And let me say, I have more trepidation than most over Waddle because I was a little uncertain about his rookie profile because he didn't play enough. And
I didn't like him.
I would smash that. You're going to be able to trade Waddle so much easier to more players than Kelsey. Kelsey's a very team-specific kind of target.
That is a very good point too.
Rondo had extremely low ADOT in college and now in the NFL. Yeah, that was he was in college. I agree he's good at catches, screens, and making people miss, but do we think that's going to be productive? Catches, yards, and volume is always going to be productive for fantasy. If you're asking me, is it going to be Calvin Johnson?
No, but I mean, like, think about it.
Could he be that productive? No one's really was that productive apart from Julio.
Do we remember what Golden Tate was when he was on the Lions with a healthy prime Calvin Johnson? He was great. And picture Rondale Moore, who's probably better after the catch than Golden Tate, who was one of the best yak guys in the league at the time. And on a Cliff Kingsbury offense, who's a 4 wide receiver spread him out offense, as opposed to the Lions, who just, I don't know, did they ever leave the power I back in, the early 2000s? Probably not. So absolutely, I don't care.
Debo Samuel is the easier corollary right now. He's more of a rusher than Rondale is, but it's a similar type of role, and that's productive as hell right now. Jarvis Landry was a top 5 wide receiver, by the way, guys. These guys can produce, and I know it feels weird.
No, that was an outlier touchdown season.
It was, but some of us hit the top 5. That kind of very few consistently do that.
You need that to be that high.
Unless you're talking Julio, Calvin, or Antonio and Brown, very few are consistently that productive.
Very, very, very fair point.
So, his value is definitely more than what you can trade him for right now. So even with your concerns, you can be ready to trade him for a good deal. That's true with every player. But will he be productive? Yes, I honestly think so. Could I be wrong? Yeah. But I don't think we've seen anything this season to prove that he can't do the exact things that you mentioned, and those are going to score points in fantasy. Yep. Is it going to be your, Jamar Chase? No. He will never have that hype or that value or that role. That's not what he does.
Correct.
But also, if you want to feel good about it, honestly, this is a watch him thing. Yeah, he's not Jamar Chase, but I would go toe-to-toe. Rondale Moore is one of the best athletes in the NFL. And most physical players. Like he's fun. He's not just a small down the field guy. I mean, Marcus Brown gets it in the neck for the same reason, but at least Rondale Moore's thick, So I mean, that's just saying. Have you watched Hawkeye yet, Russ?
I'm so behind on TV. I still have to watch Cowboy Bebop first, and then I'm going to watch Hawkeye. I need to watch TV.
I've cut TV so far out of my life. Like, TV to me now is I play YouTube videos in the background while I work. Like, that's all the TV I get.
See, the problem is, I usually have to wait till my family falls asleep.
We have 27 viewers right now. Look, sorry. I got today, guys.
At 11:30, go to sleep, people. I get that we don't have work tomorrow, but come on.
Don't tell them to go away. I really appreciate it, everyone. Thanks. It's really fun to get to talk to 20 people a week just about fantasy football. It's the coolest thing in the world. And Hawkeye as well. Would you sell Tim Patrick for a second or a third? I have traded for Tim Patrick for that price.
That's the price.
I was actually going to mention this earlier to you. Like, as I think the resident Tim Patrick undrafted free agent truther, even in Denver, I think Cortland Sutton's coming back. I think Tim Patrick is living on touchdowns right now, and I love him.
He gets looks, but man. I think
9 times out of 10, Cortland Sutton's the answer by this time next year, But so, have faith. You're good. He'll contest a few catches, and it'll be fine. Hopefully, they can get a quarterback who can actually, engage in that kind of behavior. I don't know why I said it like that. Too many viewers. I'm all nervous now. What do I think with Marky's value now? too low. He's been in the league a couple years, and we are thirsty for young guys. I honestly think Barkley and CMC are going to be interesting this offseason, the same way we were talking about before. Like, I get now we've seen struggles like every player is going to have eventually. That all the, he was always not quite there, and all the rumors about what he's actually not great at are coming out. I think that's after the fact, like that guy's physically kind of on another plane in terms of what he can do at running back. That's where I'm at. I mean, he's Christian McCaffrey tier in terms of actual ability, and that's 2. That's 2 in that tier. Right? I don't think Jonathan Taylor is as good as these guys. I think he's amazing. I'm trying to highlight how much I think these 2 are capable of. Do the Giants suck? I mean, light her up for the fans.
Saquon Barkley was the running back 1 on the shitty Giants team.
It does. When you're struggling, your team
to be on a good
you've got
team.
nothing to help you. You've got nothing to help you when you're having your own struggles. And this year he's having some. But I don't have any questions about him. I'm still up on full.
I'm still up on full price Saquon Barkley. Not gonna lie.
That sounds fine.
I don't discount him because he stepped on a dude's foot and twisted his ankle. And already his first game back, I know he didn't get a lot of work, but he still had over 4 yards of carry and had like 4 catches.
I mean, this is what you remember when you're thinking about Jonathan Taylor right now, because this is the conversation back when Saquon Barkley came out, and this guy is, I honestly think, slightly higher tier than the amazingness of Jonathan Taylor. Like, Jonathan Taylor can step on someone's foot and twist an ankle. He can get hurt, not because he's weak or because he's injury prone, just because he's in fact tough human. Damn life, man. He's amazing, but the ability doesn't go away. He's going to get hurt at some point. Frank Gore's
wow. Good for you, Rock and Talk.
I mean, that's what Saquon Barkley does for me right now. Is thinking about Jonathan Taylor. Is he worth all the picks right now? Yes. But Barkley is no less worth great because he has had more years in the NFL. This is what happens. AJ Brown or Elijah Moore and a first.
The answer is still AJ Brown.
Good trade.
The answer, because here's the thing.
For me,
at the end of the season, the answer could be Elijah Moore in a first. I think you probably should get more now, but it's the question, like, do you trade for what the value is now, or do you trust yourself? Do you say, I know AJ Brown's going up. I know AJ Brown's going down. Elijah Moore's going up. Make this trade now. That's on you. I mean, if you feel cool about that, if you firmly believe those things, make the trade. If you can, get AJ Brown for Elijah Moore first and a second. I mean, but in the end, in a trade this size, do you let a second stop the deal? No, you don't. But do you feel better if you get it? Yeah.
I think it's fairly even team situation kind of a thing for me. AJ Brown has more upside. Elijah Moore on the first is clearly the higher value going forward, unless AJ Brown bounces back relatively quickly to a healthy season. J. Mike Check from the Open Bar podcast. That's the way you say his name, by the way. 27 viewers in this economy. In love. Down to 21 now, because I think I mentioned it.
We talked about it.
I screwed it up.
We broke the fourth wall.
How you doing? Good. Our OBJ and AJ Brown cautionary tales of young. I think OBJ is an interesting case study in the peak years can come earlier than we think. We think of the arc and then and sometimes it starts up here and peaks down. That's honestly the best explanation I've come up with. And it sucks because that's not how people work. I don't think his ability shouldn't be less. But AJ Brown's look. This time next year, if he has been healthy, like this conversation would seem insane. Like, why don't you like about him? He was great his first year, great his second year, got hurt for a little while. Now he's great again. I think the AJ Brown arrow is pointing down in value, and I think Russ is rightly concerned in that way, but it could easily seem crazy.
1000%. He stays healthy the rest of this year, healthy the first 6 weeks of next. We completely forget that he's ever gotten hurt. And
I mean, DK Metcalf, CD Lamb, Jamar Chase, that's who he is when healthy. And it will seem crazy to have sold him low at the age of 24 because a few hamstring injuries. Like there was a time, if I remember right, that Julio Jones struggled with his hamstrings for a while.
He had foot problems.
That's the one. I mean, could it easily mount up like OBJ? I think it's a reasonable concern, Joannis. Right now, I'm a little less. I'm willing to bet in a little bit more than Russ, but you can see we're a little divided, so it's a fair concern. It's how you think it's going to go at that point. I traded away DK and Mooney and AJ Brown, giving up, and Ayuk, just giving up all of them. I was already in contention, kind of regretting it because AJ Brown's current.
Wait, DK and Mooney, I think that's supposed to be for AJ Brown and Ayuk.
Yeah. DK Mooney for AJ Brown. Yeah.
I mean, that's
that went the opposite way for you, huh?
Yeah, that's why you don't do same position trades. Same position, same tier, pretty much. That's why you don't do it.
Also, to be fair, Ayuk is going up. AJ Brown, I think, is muted and should rise up at some. It just needs another good game, and people will be like, "Oh my God, he's so young and big and great." And there'll be a sell window there. Right now, it's rough for you, but I think you did a decent job in the trade insulating yourself. The floor here isn't terrible, unless AJ Brown continues to be injured, like Joanna said, and then it's a little rough. Maybe the idea of building around wide receiver and Dynasty isn't a sure. Yeah, it's definitely not a sure thing. It's not the only thing. You're building around value and then trying to pummel a year with points. It's essentially the way I think of it. But wide receivers, like Russ was pointing out earlier, the clearest path to building with value because it's longer term, more stable, and everything else he probably said. I can't remember. I wasn't listening. But it's definitely not a sure thing. Again,
there is no sure thing. That's the truth of it.
I think wide receiver is there because of value, because we believe it's stronger. But honestly, the numbers between running back and wide receiver, there's an edge at wide receiver. But even the repeat rates are like 3 to 5% higher. It's not as strong as we value them differently stronger. Like the chances of finishing top 5 next year, if you finish top 5 this year at wide receiver, are 3 to 5% higher than at running back. That's a lot smaller edge than we probably genuinely recognize. And I think it's a very good thing to know.
But the real reason we build on wide receivers is...
even if they don't, they still have value.
Primate, and the age of when they're in their prime is a little further back than running backs.
The careers are infinitely longer. It's for a reason. But yeah, I think the edge is slightly exaggerated, but it is for a good reason. It is for a reason, at least. PJ Lee, everyone like a cheese. These guys deserve it.
Everyone leave a like.
I don't know why I can't read or speak today. It seems like that would be a bad day for us.
It's 11:35. That's why.
This is normal for me. Like this is normally my. It's because I'm ruined both physically, emotionally, like I mentioned at the start. SU, well, SU too, buddy. Appreciate it. Would you sell OBJ for Donovan Peoples-Jones? No, and a late 2026. The second makes it tempting, but no, I'd rather see what happens on the OBJ train, especially this week. I mean, McVay expects a big work. He only needs one good game for everyone to at least value him as a second plus. He really does, because that's what we do with wide receivers, and that's where I'm at. Like, you can trade him to me for more next week if he just has a decent game this week. And so I would wait for that period.
But also, I wouldn't hate taking that either. So totally,
I wouldn't hate it, but honestly, you're gonna be dropping Donovan Peoples-Jones.
There's going to be half of your league that doesn't want to touch OBJ, regardless of what he does.
Yeah, that's
so fair. It depends what the other half thinks.
You can hold. That's where I would play it, but it's as good a trade as you're getting right now. And if you're just done with this ride, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And you know, in a couple weeks, when we know more of the answer, people will call you an idiot or hyper small. But honestly, hyper stupid, smart, whichever. Honestly, no one knows. Like, it's our best guesses, and that's why I would take the ride. But it's very fair to say there's no clear leading indicator to prove what you should do. They'll just tell you the was after the fact. Joe Smith, what would you want to receive for the 101 or the 101, depending on which way you look at it, in 1 QB? I don't know this draft class yet, but I tend to trade a first for a first and a second.
Okay. I have the trade analyzer values pulled up, and while they don't have the specific picks in just yet,
you can do early.
There's 2022 early first. Okay, so let's go up a little bit. Nick Chubb or the 101
is linear when it's more of a curve. It's not like a mid first costs half of one, an early first. The 101 means you can choose anyone you want. Yes. You just have to get it right. And that's value.
I mean, I think Nick Chubb and Zeke Elliott are both obviously worth more than the 101. Terry McLaurin, I would take over the 101. Now let's go below it. Deebo Samuel or the 101, Peter?
I would take Deebo, but that's because he's innovative.
Javonte?
Javonte, I guess I know more. Yeah.
Antonio Gibson?
101.
Yeah, me too. Derrick Henry?
I would take Henry, but you should probably take the 101.
I'll take the 101.
The rookie running back is easily going to jump into the top 5 straight away.
See, and I think
pretty close to it.
We've hit the point where I think we're like Chris Godwin, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon. Yeah. I don't think anyone's taking any of these guys over the 101 at this point.
No. Even
though Mixon will and probably can keep doing what he's doing right now, his value is what it is, and it's not the 101 anymore. So I think that's your level of player.
And if you're thinking, if that answers the question, Joe, no problem. If you were thinking more in terms of how many other picks can I get, let us know. Yeah. Daniel McGrath, who would you guys say is the first pick in the 2022 draft in a non-Superflex league? A running back. I don't know any of the names.
All we could say is right now, the 3 are Spiller, Hall, and Walker. I don't think from what I've heard...
CJ Spiller's coming back? That's awesome.
CJ Spiller is coming back. We're going to have to wait for the draft to find out more. I don't think anything right now.
Definitely. But I can say fairly confidently it's going to be a running back. But
yes, 1,000% it will be.
And we're really accurate with our running back ones. Like the worst result in the last 5 years is Claire Buzelaire, and that's not been terrible.
No, that was bad process. The answer was Jonathan
Taylor. Well, it was, to be fair, even the ADP was kind of split there. ADP or Jonathan Taylor. And either way, we're good. Running back tends to be a pretty good bet early. Even in our rookie drafts. Even Trent Richardson, like the poster child for a running back, finished top 12, I think.
Had a good season and a half.
In his first year, the value went up. So, rank Gibson, Dobbins, Akers, Thielen, and CEH. No, you don't know me, Joe Smith. No.
Dobbins, Gibson, ETN, CEH, Akers.
Yeah, I think I put Gibson at the top. No, which I did this before. It's Akers, Gibson, Dobbins, CEH, ETN for me. Something like that.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Of course. Thoughts on my QB room. I have Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields.
Brilliant.
Awesome. I love that QB room. That's great. You have all the upside. You can trade either one of them on the very because they're young and good and will score. I really still believe in Fields. Jalen Hurts is already doing it. And everyone finally realized that the hate for the last few weeks was way overblown. And it's just, Fields has been good. It's just
rumors that tomorrow's Nagy's last game.
Really? I have no thoughts or feelings. Who wins, Akers and Bateman for a mid-2022 first and Ayuk? It's a good question. I think Ayuk and Bateman, I like acquiring both now. You can probably Bateman over Ayuk, but it's very close.
My answer was going to be to pick an Ayuk, even though I like Bateman a lot. The problem is, like you said, Ayuk and Bateman are probably a little interchangeable, and I'm taking a first over Aikman at any point. Akers,
just because of that. Yeah, that's fair. I really like acquiring Bateman right now. So if you want Bateman, that's fair. But... Like if that's your guy, do it. It's fine. It's fair.
All right, you need to wrap this shit up so I can go to sleep.
I'm not going to. I think very.
I'll just leave. That's fine.
That's cool. I'll just sit here.
I'm just gonna go to sleep right here.
I'll just sit here looking forlorn. I'll just be here for an hour complaining about my mean co-host who abandoned me. All right, guys. Any last questions? We got to go before Rest divorces me or something. Sorry for starting the show a little late. That's entirely my fault. I was trying to put my house back together. Don't know what to tell you. All right, Joe Smith gets the last question. Would you trade the 101 and Pittman for a mid-first and McLaurin? I would take the first and McLaurin for sure.
Yeah,
personally. Yeah. Good question, though. That wraps up a lot of things we were talking about. I like that one. Joannis, no. Oh, you didn't have a question? No, thanks, Joannis.
Where's the comma in that?
Yeah. No, thanks, guys. No, I appreciate you, Joannis. You're always fun to have in the chat. It's nice to see you back. I really appreciate it. Matthew Biddle, value of 2022 first. I mean,
one first.
They are still currently, I think in most leagues, they'll be worth more than 2023 picks. I really think that'll switch up by the time the draft comes around, and that's crazy, but it does happen.
Yes. It happens with 19 and 20. It's going to happen, yeah.
Appreciate you joining us. Okay, I'm going to get out of here before you don't know, but Russ really asked for things. So that was a strong moment right there. Yeah, that's all we got. We live stream every Wednesday at 9:30. Today I was a little late because I really screwed up my house and had to put it back together. But I got as close as I could. Okay, I tried. So hopefully see you again next time or in the future, or DM us anytime on Twitter at Dynasty Outhouse or at PA Howdy. At DLF is a company that doesn't pay us to do any of this stuff, but we really do like them. We like them a lot. So check them out if you could. And we'll see you again next week. I'm going to get fired from my job. Appreciate it. There's something behind you, I guess.